This year in English, I gave 4 speeches: an introduction speech about myself, a fear speech about the time I went ziplining, a banned book speech about becoming the book Delirium, and an informative speech about Chinese astrology. After watching all of my speeches, I noticed a few things. First, my introduction speech. The very first thing that I noticed was how much my feet were moving because it was extremely distracting and annoying. I also said a lot during the speech, which made me sound unprofessional and unsure of myself. I didn't use any hand gestures, but that was because I was holding a piece of paper with information on it. My volume was good the whole time, and I never really had a problem understanding what I was saying. I also made good eye contact with the audience during the whole speech. I knew what I was saying, but I think that is just because I had the piece of paper with me that said exactly what I was going to say on it. My next speech was my speech about a time when I was afraid to go ziplining. In my opinion, this is the worst speech that I gave throughout the year, even though I did improve on a few things from my first speech. The first bad thing that I did was play with my note card throughout the entire speech. It was so distracting and annoying, and I couldn't concentrate on what I was saying because of how much my fingers were playing with the note card. I did use some tiny hand gestures during about the 20 seconds that I wasn't fidgeting with my note card, but they were very insignificant. My eye contact also wasn't as good as in my first speech. Even though I did make eye contact most of the time, there were a few times when I would look up and to the right when I was speaking. The entire speech I seemed very nervous, and I think that was because of a lack of preparation. I should have known my material much more thoroughly. There were a few improvements in the speech, though. I didn't say or like, and my feet were not being distracting. The third speech I gave was my banned book speech. I think that this was my best speech of the year. First of all, my volume was good the whole time, and I used some hand gestures. I also wasn't playing with my note card, which was a huge improvement from my last speech. I had good eye contact with the audience, and I wasn't moving around and being distracting while I gave my speech. However, I think my biggest improvement was my confidence level. I rehearsed this speech a lot more, and I think that it shows. I knew what I was going to say and how I was going to say it. Even though I did say a couple of times, I think that this was a very good speech. My last speech was an informative speech about Chinese astrology. Overall, I think that this speech was good, but it could have been much better. I was moving my fingers the whole time, most likely to make up for the fact that I had no note card to play with, and it was distracting and annoying, just like it was when I was playing with my note card. I also kept pausing while I was speaking, and that showed that I didn't really know what I was going to be saying. I kind of sounded like a video that's playing while you're letting it buffer, so the speeds that I was talking in were completely different and inconsistent, which I found annoying. And also, there were a lot of pauses. I also had to ask for my line a few times, which once again shows that I could have known my material a little bit better. And I think that would have made my speech a lot stronger. I was also really nervous, so that could have been why I spoke so inconsistently during the entire time, and being a lot more rehearsed would have helped with my nervousness, which would have helped with my inconsistent speaking. I do think that I made good eye contact with the audience, and I could understand everything that I was saying, so I had good volume. There were no ums or likes in my speech either, so that's an improvement from my banned book speech. I think that my greatest strength regarding making speeches is eye contact. Even when I'm extremely nervous, I'm able to look out into the audience and make eye contact with people all over the classroom. And I think that my greatest weakness is moving during my speech. In every speech, except for one, I was very fidgety, like with my hands and moving my feet all around the room. And that distracts people from the actual speech, and they're only focusing on my body movement and not what I'm saying, so they aren't really absorbing anything that I'm saying. I would really like to improve how much I'm fidgety during my speeches because I know that it will make me a much better speaker, and it will make people pay attention to what I'm saying and make the impact of my speeches much more. So this year I learned that in order to have success and not be terribly nervous while speaking in public, I need to be fully rehearsed. I was extremely nervous during all of my speeches except for my banned book speech, and that's because I prepared so much for it. I prepared a lot more for my banned book speech than I did for any other speech, so I was much more confident and I was able to give a much better speech. I was actually surprised by how nervous I was when giving my other speeches because when I was younger, I was in a bunch of plays, and I thought that those would have given me the experience so that I wouldn't be nervous while giving my speeches. However, I've never been more nervous in my life than giving speeches in front of my English class this year. Overall, my speeches taught me and everyone else a lot about myself, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to give the speeches.